Hello, Taylor Army. Welcome back to an all-new episode of Q&A Wednesday with yours truly on All Things Taylor, my YouTube channel. I am loving this tradition, guys, so stick with me. We're going to have some fun. There are some brand new questions today, so let's get right down to it. It has been a crazy day, so I think we could all use some interesting factoids and some positivity and some fun stories to laugh at my expense. So without further ado, here we go. Most of the questions that I have for today actually came from my YouTube channel. You guys are straight up rocking. Super stoked. So here we go. Someone asked me on YouTube, what is an achievement, whether in wrestling or in life, that I'm the most proud of? And I had to sit and think, because I'm proud of a lot of things, and I'm also kind of somewhat wistful about the things that could have been or should have been but weren't. So I think I would have to say I'm most proud of myself. I fought literally tooth and nail, blow for blow, injury for injury, scratch, blood, sweat, and tears to be the woman that I am today. And I think for the first time in my life, I can actually subliminally look back at the little girl I was, who had these huge dreams, who kind of had to make way for me to grow up someday to be an adult. And I've always wanted to be the adult I needed as a child. And so for me to feel like I can kind of look back now and tell little tiny Taylor, I got you, girl. You're never going to be alone. We're going to do some epic shizit and it's going to be amazing. I've got you. High fives and give her a big hug. I think that's probably the biggest takeaway so far from my life that I'm the most proud of. I've won championship titles. I've been in cage matches. I've gone through tables and chains and ladders and chairs and ropes and cords and all kinds of crazy stuff. I've jumped off of cages and ladders and tables and even a guardrail or two. I've gone all kinds of places all over the world, and I've met people from all over the world, and even all the bad things, I don't know if I can say that I would change them, because I feel like if I did say that I would want to change them and say I had this magic time machine where I could change them, I feel like if I did that, then those experiences would have to happen to someone else. And I feel like that would make me a part of the problem, and I'm not okay with that. I would rather all of those bad things happen to me, and I'm not the type of person to wish it on someone else. I've seen what bad things can do, and you have one of two choices. Let it make you bitter, or let it make you better. And I think the bitterness, you have to feel that for a little bit so you can understand just how much desire you possess and how much power you have to end up being better from it. And that's a positive out of every horrible, terrible, disgusting, repugnant, just vile, vicious thing. There's something that can come out of it that's good, whether it's knowledge, whether it's a sense of self-worth, whether it's a sense of purpose, whether it's a sense of I survived for a reason, whatever that case may be for whoever's listening to this. I think that's why I would say that I wouldn't change anything. The great, the good, the bad, the ugly, the horrible, the tear-worthy, the everything. I fought really hard to be me. And I think that that's the most thing that I'm proud of. So I really want to say thank you to the person on YouTube that asked that question. I thought that was a really amazing question, and no one's really asked that so far in the 2.5-3 months that we've been doing Q&A Wednesday. Okay, this next question came up on an old video of mine that someone recently saw on my YouTube channel, and I think it's really cool, people going back and watching old stuff that I've put up. I don't know, it's really cool. So I'm just like, oh, I forgot about that. I forgot I did that, little things like that. It keeps you very humble, and I feel like in order to be successful in life, you also have to be able to learn how to laugh at yourself and also cheer for yourself when no one else will, and bet on yourself when no one else will. And this next question reminded me of that and gave me a little bit of a laugh and a sense of humor. So this question was kind of asked multiple times, whether on my podcast, Talks with Taeler Hendrix on russosbrand.com, or very, very much on this YouTube channel. But I did want to go over it again because to me it is a somewhat inspiring story, and it helped make me the person that I am today. So it kind of piggybacks off the first question. So this person on my YouTube channel was scrolling through, I guess, and saw a part of a promo that I had uploaded with Scarlett Bordeaux. Now, people had very negative opinions about this promo when it first aired. I think because they didn't understand that Scarlett and I had written that to intentionally be campy, and then to turn up the heat instantaneously to be straight fire, and to end it back on a campy note. It was written that way, but people just thought it was terrible acting, and it's no, that's what campy is. So this promo with Scarlett Bordeaux, this person asked in the comments, this promo was straight fire, but still, what was the inspiration for this gimmick of yours? And to be honest, this gimmick came out of being bullied. This gimmick came out of being very lost. This gimmick came out of not knowing who I am. This gimmick came out of a little girl who was, even though she's an adult by age standards and on paper, she's still a kid in the mind, my body matured, my brain did not. I did not have, actually it's very interesting because Priscilla Kelly actually spoke on this somewhat on Vicky Guerrero's Excuse Me podcast, I believe it was. And I very much related to that because I felt the exact same way, but Priscilla Kelly's support was way different than mine. I think she fit in more with the in crowd than I did. So I think that very much had an effect on our individual journeys. But everybody has to have their own journey because we're not all the same people. We don't all have the same experiences in life. We don't even all have the same goals. Even if we think they look the same, they're not. So for me, this gimmick really came out of not knowing a single thing about myself other than I was a little girl that on paper should have never existed, should have never made it, should have never done anything. On paper, I was just another statistic, and I was never okay with being just another statistic. And I didn't know what looked good on me. I was trying to be something I wasn't. I was trying to be everyone else. I was struggling with health issues and struggling with, mental health and struggling with bullying and trying to understand the bullying, being angry, being hurt, being sad, being hopeful, feeling of being blessed, but then not understanding why I felt blessed while I was being bullied. I was just going through so many conflicting emotions, right? And this gimmick really started, the beginning stages of it started before I even realized it. I had paid this gear maker in Louisville, Kentucky to make me this gear that was inspired by the Dark Phoenix. So you actually see it in my ladder match, and you actually see it in Santana Garrett's Impact Wrestling tryout match that she had against me at OVW after I was already released from TNA. They chose me to wrestle Santana Garrett. They chose Lady Tappa to wrestle Candice LeRae, and they chose one of the Blossom twins to wrestle Marty Bell, and those women were all having tryouts, and they eventually got signed to Impact. I think all of them except Candice LeRae at that point. And so I thought that was cool that, not only was I going to be in the main event for OVW at that time with both of the Blossom twins and Lady Tappa, which that hadn't women from OVW being in the main event on OVW TV had not happened since Katie Lee Burchell versus Beth Phoenix in a ladder match for the OVW Women's Championship back when it was WWE Developmental. So it had been a very, very, very long time. So we took that seriously. We were honored. Christy Hemme was there. She was going to be announcing us, and it was just this huge deal. And I was the only knockout in that match not signed anymore. And I was one of the only people that got released that actually stuck around at the developmental. So I felt like I just had so much to prove. So I had this two-piece gear made. It was red and gold, and it had these little tiny pointed gauntlets and pointed knee pad covers. And it was just red and gold. And I was just like, man, I feel so powerful. And then, stuff didn't end up going my way, but I was super proud of that match. And, I just suffered blow after blow, loss after loss, and it was very down on my luck. The next thing I know, it's 2014, and I'm still down and out and still being bullied, still have people writing all these crazy narratives about me and lying and saying all these crazy things, and people, you know, they think that you no longer have anything to offer them because you're not on TV, so now they're magically not your friend anymore, like all this crazy stuff, you know. And I get booked for my first ever Comic-Con. This was the mega for me because I'm a huge nerd. I love comic books. I love all kinds of stuff. I love Buffy. I love Angel. I love Gotham, and you know, just like I even had like the Gotham City Sirens comic books, and I owned the first full appearance of Magneto's Evil Mutants, and you know, and what's hilarious is the WandaVision just came out, and I'm actually a huge Wanda Maximoff fan. She's the Scarlet Witch. She's the daughter of Magneto. Like, huge. I always wanted to be that role. So kudos to Elizabeth Olsen. That's like the role of a lifetime. Like her character, the Scarlet Witch, is just amazing. But anyways, so I get booked. And the stipulation, I'm booked with a girl that is now a former WWE diva and another woman who's now a former knockout, right? And so I'm the least successful of the three. I'm also the greener of the three. And I look up to these women. You know, they're beautiful. They have all these amazing photo shoots where I felt like I just looked so terrible. I used to say, my self-talk used to be so negative, so negative. I would be like, all right, I gotta slap some makeup on this pig and like all kinds of stuff. I never thought of myself as pretty or beautiful. I was raised a tomboy. We weren't allowed to wear makeup. I knew nothing. To this day, I still do not know how to use a curling iron. Like, I just think it looks like a medieval device. Like, I don't understand its concept. No idea. So I'm still in this awkward, like, teenage phase, even though I'm in my 20s. So I'm way behind on the curve. I don't pick up on social cues. And us three women are booked for this Rhode Island Comic-Con. And the stipulation for us being booked is they want us to be in cosplay, even though we're wrestlers. Wrestling, cosplay, it overlaps all the time. Not a big deal. So I was super excited. My mother and I make this really crazy cool a Poison Ivy costume. And what I loved about that was I owned the original first appearance of Poison Ivy in the Batman comics. Like, legit. And it was like graded and everything. It was in really poor condition when I bought it, but I kept it in the sleeve. I was super stoked. So I was like walking around with it at Comic-Con and I had it in its case. I felt like the bee's knees, even though like my body wasn't great and, you know, I wasn't in the best shape. I was really struggling at that point with trying to figure out what was going to work best for me, for injuries, for health reasons, for mental health, for a lot of things. And so that is a little regrettable, but you make the best of it, right? Well, these girls show up not in cosplay. They show up in regular clothes. They show up late. They barely spent any time at their table. I was excited when they did get there, and then I felt like an idiot. You know, I felt like an idiot in my own backyard, even though I hadn't lived on the East Coast for almost 5 years at that point. And so I just felt like a kid without a home. Because here I am at my home base. I'm an outsider to them now because I haven't been there. I left to go to Kentucky. I'm a reject that, you know, left television. And now I have these girls treating me like I'm a third-rate citizen. And they were just really not funny. They were basically like saying stuff about me without saying it to me. So I knew something was wrong, but with social cues, I just didn't quite understand it. And so I felt really awkward, out of place, uncomfortable in my own skin. And what made matters worse was that my little sister came to see me. My mother came and brought my little sister to see me. So they both were there. And I even had students that from when I was a teacher and a site coordinator for the YMCA. And I couldn't believe it. I was like, oh my gosh, these were my little babies. They're all like preteens now. Like, when did that happen? Oh, the stuff you miss, you know, but it was so cool. They recognized me, they saw me, and what was crazy is I still have the keychain they made me when I still worked for the YMCA, and just seeing them get older, and you know, it was just so cool, and they were like so proud to see me. That was an amazing part of that experience. But nevertheless, to continue on with this story, so I feel very weird and uncomfortable at this point. I feel like I don't belong there. It's kind of dampening the it's hampering the experience, basically. I'm not going to lie, right? And believe me, this is not a pity party. This is just how it was. But what made matters worse is my mother went outside, I guess to smoke a cigarette or something, and she was on her phone, and she hears those two women outside talking about her daughter. Embarrassing. Completely, utterly, wholeheartedly in complete earnestness, embarrassing to the max in every sense of the word at its most basic foundation, basically. I was mortified, like 10 shades whiter than I already am, white as a sheet of paper, ghost-like mortified. Okay, and how do you lift yourself back up from that? These people, they were making fun of my costume, they were making fun of my body and body shaming me. Other women were body shaming me. That's just like ridiculous, but it is what it is. And they were just totally just trashing me. Now, they had no idea who the woman was. They didn't know that she was my mother, which, I mean, made it even worse. Luckily, the one saving grace was that sorry, I'm itchy. Was that my sister stayed inside and hung out with me at my table. So at least I was saved from my sister having to also hear that firsthand. That would have been just a million times worse. So thank heaven for that. So my mother comes back in. I can tell something's wrong. She tells me, but not really tells me. Like, she was trying to spare my feelings. But I guess my mother felt so bad at whatever they were saying that my mother literally went on her phone, found a Kohl's that was near the venue, and drove to it, bought me this outfit that I actually still have to this day. I wore the shoes to WWE. And the very next day, I decide I'm not going to do the cosplay. I'm not going to put myself through that again, and I'm just going to wear this outfit, right? And what's crazy is I don't know if it was divine providence or what, but I am not in the same aisle at the Comic-Con the second day that I was the first. The next day, I'm not with any of the wrestlers. I'm in the same aisle as like Eliza Dushku, which is epic. Another Boston girl. Love it. Love her to death. Shout out to her. She was actually part of an inspiration for my gimmick. And other cosplayers and stuff like that. And then someone from Gotham that I don't remember. And I was just like, why couldn't this been like the flip side? But the story would have been so different, so like I said from the first question, you can't really change it, right? So I'm sitting in this outfit looking at my TNA trading card that the person that booked me had got for me and stuff. I'm still friends with them to this day. I love them. I've made them a lot of money. So they love me too. And I look up and there's this beautiful cosplayer. I don't remember her name, but she makes her own costumes, sets up her own photo shoots, does her own sets. This girl was fabulous in every sense of the word. Oh my gosh, she was phenomenal. And I just look up at her and I'm just in awe of her giant banner coming down in front of her. She was dressed as Velma that day. A lot of cosplayers were, so I don't know if like a movie or a TV show or something, a new one had come out at that point. I don't remember. But it was just crazy. And I look up and she's cosplaying, there's Sabrina, as Jade from Mortal Kombat. And just all of a sudden, it just clicked. And I was like, nobody is doing One Pieces like this. Nobody. The last person to do anything like it was Oksana in the WWE. And she was already, I think, on her way out or like already had just gone out. I don't remember, from the WWE. And I was like, I can do this. Like, if anybody can do this, I can. Like, stop feeling sorry for myself, and I can't control how these people feel about me, regardless of how nice I was to them. And my mother saw how nice I was to them. Like, yeah. And then I was like, why don't I do what I was taught at OVW? Take all kinds of random inspirations, so that way you're not a carbon copy of something, and come up with something completely new that no one else is doing and make it yours. And there, that day, because I got so sick of being bullied, that was the dawning of like the Taeler Hendrix iconic look that you guys know and see today, that kind of evolved in Ring of Honor when I didn't have any sort of direction or positive reinforcement or anything. All the odds were against me. And that's when you started seeing the One Pieces that made me look like a comic book character jumped out of the comics and came to life. And I got to be part of my most authentic self. I loved it. It was such a interesting part of my personality. I'm a Gemini, so there's so many different parts to me, but that's how I was able to start playing a villain on screen and still be the person that I am. And I loved it. It was such an amazing creative outlet. So I took Jade from Mortal Kombat. I took Melina. I took Eliza Dushku from Angel. I took Maleficent. I took Elvira, Mistress of the Dark. I took Morticia Adams. I took Vampira. I took so many different things that I loved. I took lots of aspects of Sherry Martell and Velvet McIntyre. I took the Phoenix and the Dark Phoenix from Jean Grey. I took aspects that I liked of Rogue from the X-Men animated series. I took so many different inspirations from like the Scarlet Witch, and I took aspects of Buffy, and I took aspects of Selene from Underworld and all these other different things, and I molded them together into what you guys started to see, from my valet dresses that made me feel like I jumped out of Mortal Kombat and I was Madame Hydra. Like that's the ultimate to me. Nobody has really done Madame Hydra, and I always just felt I am the Madame Hydra of pro wrestling. You never really truly know who's a secret undercover Taylor fan. So I always joke that the Taylor Army is my Hydra. We are Legion. We are the Revolution. Hail Hendrix. And that's kind of where the Hail Hendrix thing began. And it was really cool because I actually had tentacles on my gear and stuff before Bray Wyatt did his tentacle thing. So I thought I was like a cool trendsetter, even though, nobody really knows that. And I had like scales on my gear, and I had dragon scales on some of my valet dresses. And, I stoned my own gear. I designed my gear. I had amazing gear makers. And that's really how the inspiration for that came about. I wanted to be so different that when anybody saw anything similar to me, they would be like, oh, that person's ripping off Taeler Hendrix. Like, I saw someone do my entrance on television. I saw them have my entrance gear from my detachable train and stuff, and some of my martial arts moves and stuff. So then, I was very bitter about it at the time, but now I can look back and be like, oh, well, hey. And nobody can do it better than Taeler Hendrix. But the whole inspiration for that started out of having no direction, having nobody cheer me on, having this lost feeling. So I took everything that I ever loved, the Lost Boys and, all kinds of just different random things that you would never put together. But because I loved them and was inspired by it, I put it all together. And it became just this really cool thing, So like when people met me at Comic Cons and conventions and things, I looked like my gimmick. I dressed the part of my gimmick and stuff, and I just loved it. It was like a chance for my inner goth to come out. And, and I love that. But all of that came out of a very negative time and a very negative situation that spanned years. Like, I was stuck in that for years, being just bullied and fake positivity, which I think is even more harmful than bullying, and all kinds of stuff. So that is something that I'm proud that I made it through and turned it into something positive that I could be proud of. But it all started with that. It all started with that one Rhode Island Comic Con. And there was trickles of it that started earlier, but I wasn't aware. Like, I wasn't really realizing what subconsciously I was already putting together for myself. And I think it's really cool to see that come full steam years later. And to evolve it by myself at Ring of Honor with no creative direction, writing my own promos and designing my own sets and, coming up with my own valet character and like all this other stuff. I don't know. It reminded me of what I loved about wrestling when I first fell in love with wrestling. The characters, the different personalities, the unique mannerisms, from the way my fingers moved to the way I would turn my head to what I wore to my move sets. Like, I wanted to present a full, complete picture to fans, and I feel like I did that. And I did it on my own. So that's really amazing with the help of the Taylor Army. So that's that. Someone asked me if I had Doc's time machine from Back to the Future, what era of wrestling would I go back to? I'm torn between two. I would like to go in the late 90s, early 2000s, WWF, WWE time, because I would love to have been around during the whole Trish, Lita, Victoria, Molly Holly Jazz. I feel like that was like a really badass time. And also I would kind of like to go back into like the 80s. Like, they had some, the Jumping Bomb Angels, Leilani Kai, the Glamour Girls, you had Princess Victoria, you had Velvet McIntyre, Wendy Richter, Rockin' Robin. Like, there was just so many amazing. So I'm torn. If I had to go back in time, those were the two areas I would be torn, which ones I would go to. And I think that would have been cool because my mom watched wrestling in like the 70s and 80s, and she met people like Andre the Giant and Chief Jay Strongbow and, you know, Killer Kowalski and, you know, all these people like J.J. Dillon and stuff when she was like a really, really little girl. So that kind of would have been cool because, you know, wrestling was a whole different beast back then. Someone asked me on an old video on my YouTube, what's one thing I hate people doing as far as in wrestling? And the person mentioned, you know, Steve Austin hated when people would throw him in the ring and back into the ring and like give a wedgie or something like that, and like he would like, I guess, tear into people for that. I didn't know that, but this is what the person said. Something I hate, which is actually really funny, I hate when people spit at you and in your face without asking. That POs me to the max. And what's really funny about that, and we joked about this years later, is my original time when I was very, very green, I was breaking into Ring of Honor at the same time way back when as Adam Cole, Adam Page, Kyle O'Reilly, and some others. We were all breaking in there and going to the same tryout camps and stuff at the same time. And I remember that I was valeting Austin Aries at the time. And I don't remember if Kenny King and Rhett Titus were with me. I don't remember. But Austin Aries had advocated for me on my behalf, I guess. And that's how I got that valet gig. And they gave me like that tryout match. And I remember Kyle O'Reilly came and like he spit. He was in the ring and I was on the outside on the floor, and he like spit and it went right into my face, and I was just, got so mad, and it was so funny. And we joked about it years later when we were both back at Ring of Honor, and I was like, hey, remember that time I was valeting Aries and you spit in my face, and the next day you got signed, you and Cole got like signed? And he was like, oh, I remember that, your face. And I was just like, yeah. Good times. I always got along very well with Adam Cole and Kyle O'Reilly. That was really funny. I really hate that. And then later on in my career, I was very like I said, I was not very good at the time throughout my career. I was very naive. I started wrestling way too young at such a young age. I was still in high school. And so I didn't realize until later on in my career how many people just no-sold me in the ring. And I'd be like, I'm selling my butt off. And whether I'm a heel or a baby face, I'm just selling and selling and selling because it makes me and it makes the other person look good, right? And I just started noticing so many people not like no-selling my shit as if like they didn't take me seriously. And that really made me mad. Because if you're going to bury me and then you're winning against me, who did you beat? You didn't beat somebody who looked good, so that doesn't make you look good. It's like basic psychology 101. It's like textbook psychology, and it always has been, you know, and always will be. That's why people being afraid of being buried if they sell moves just drives me crazy. It's like, if the other person is winning and you sell their shit so good, you just made them look better, so then you lost to somebody that's good, not somebody who's the drizzling you know what. So yeah, that really enrages me, like firehead, like heat miser. Makes me so agitated and angry. Like, just sell, work together. It's a team effort. I guarantee you most people would not buy tickets to watch you wrestle a broomstick or the Invisible Man, so you have to work together. So that really, really, really bothered me. And I didn't really notice it until after I started going back through footage that I have and was cutting stuff up for this YouTube channel. I was like, I see what you're doing. Taylor don't like it. Wish I would have noticed at the time, you know? So yeah, moral of the story, wrestlers, sell. It makes you and it makes the other person look better, especially if you're gonna kick out of like 17 finishers. I mean, that in and of itself should be saved for like major pay-per-views, but that's neither here nor there. those are two things that absolutely, like, don't spit on me without asking me first. Number two, uh, oh, and a third thing, I don't like it when people automatically big league you, even though you've been wrestling way longer and have done way more stuff on your resume. That I've seen a lot of people do that more these days, over the last few years, because there's been more opportunity now than there was 10 years ago. So people don't have to pay as many dues these days. So people get an ego faster and much bigger than certain other people. And they also take stuff for granted. Like, a lot of people don't have to do ring crew anymore to pay their dues. A lot of people don't have to do the same kind of training anymore. A lot of people don't have to, you know, pick up other people's bags or sell other people's merch to earn their way in and trust and go through the jobber matches and stuff. A lot of people aren't having to pay those same kinds of dues anymore. So people are getting egos much faster. And then I've seen like girls like barely 3 years in the business trying to dictate the match to somebody that's been wrestling 10 plus years. Like, if I would have done that at 3 years in, when I wrestled Mercedes Martinez, like when I was around roughly 2 years in, barely. If I would have done that to Mercedes Martinez, she would have beat me to a bloody pulp. You know what I'm saying? So that's respect. I had enough intelligence and respect to not do that. Whereas, you know, there's a lot of other people these days that just have no concept of respect or psychology. So I guess that would be the three things that I can't stand. Like, know your role or shut your mouth. The Rock. That's real. That's real, guys. Another thing would be, don't spit on people without asking them first. Most stuff I would say, like, hey, say what you want on the mic and then apologize later. But spitting is just a whole different thing. It's, yeah. Don't spit. Like, say what you want on the mic or whatever, but don't. It's better to say sorry later instead of asking for permission for certain things like that. But spitting is just one of those things that, you know, ask first. Yeah, don't no sell somebody's stuff, especially if they're selling really well for you. And another thing is, don't automatically try to big league somebody. You have no idea what kind of talents people have, and that'll come back to bite you in the butt someday. Lastly, this question was kind of fun and interesting. Someone on my YouTube channel asked me, is there any interesting injuries that you have that you haven't really discussed in too much detail that not many people know about? Okay, so yes, I had one injury that happened at Ring of Honor that was like straight up out of a horror movie. Legit, guys, legit. This is going to make you all cringe, and I had to live through it. So this is a lesson. If you know somebody doesn't like you and you have reason to not like that person in return, don't let somebody have access to you, your information, or your body. That's the moral of this story that a veteran told me after the fact, and it was like, yeah, I probably should have known that. And I didn't listen then, and then later on, that person like literally fractured a bone in my own body in a match like 2 years later. So yeah, I really should have listened. Shout out to Jerry Lynn, love him. He is an amazing dude. Lots of respect. So I'm wearing one of my favorite Valet dresses. It had dragon scales down the sides. I felt like Madame Hydra in that dress. And I noticed that it was very wrinkly. I think due to the way I had packed it, I was in a rush. And you know, when you unpack something and repack it, never packs the same. Never. Especially when you have so much stuff that you need because you have so many different roles on a show. Especially when Ring of Honor was doing multiple tapings in one night. So this was the first time Ring of Honor was really putting me through the ringer. So I was valeting like 3 matches that night. Plus I had a segment on the mic where they were giving me a mic and basically told me the premise, and I could say whatever I want as long as I got the point across that they wanted. And that was for TV. And I had a match that night for Women of Honor. So I didn't realize the valet dress that I was going to need on TV because the Women of Honor thing was like before the show or whatever. I didn't realize how wrinkled it was. So one of the guys who's now at WWE used to always have a travel size clothes steamer. So the deal was I would always have different kinds of tape, scissors, and sewing kits and things of that nature for everybody. Like referees and other wrestlers would come to me all the time for that stuff. I would give it out. And then this guy would always let me use his clothes steamer if I needed it, right? So I even contributed like money to the fund to get a new one when that one broke, but that's neither here nor there. So this girl sees me trying to steam the dress. I'm in it. My segment is about to go up within like the next 15 minutes. And so she offers to steam the dress for me while I'm wearing it. And I didn't see anything wrong with it. I was like, oh, that's actually kind of nice of her. I'm surprised. Well, thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah. Yes, please help me. I need help. Great. Should have known better. Should have known better. Should have known better, guys. So gradually she takes this little clothes steamer. It's like that big. It has like a handle, and it's on my upper leg, on my outer quad near my hip, right? And she keeps pressing the machine with the fabric closer and closer and closer to my leg. And I'm trying to think of the stuff that I want to say. And I'm just like, what do I want to say today? And I notice it's starting to go close to my leg. So I keep trying to move the fabric of my dress away from my leg. And she keeps pushing it closer and closer and closer. And then the next thing I know, it is right up against my leg. What she had done was close steamed my dress to my leg and steamed my skin off. Yes, guys, this was like House of Wax, like Rob Zombie horror going on. I saw, like, full disclaimer, guys, this is about to get really graphic and really gross. So disclaimer, I saw my skin drip from my body and land on the floor. It landed on the floor in Philadelphia at the ECW arena. Okay, like that place has seen some epic shizit. But I don't think they have ever seen someone take a clothes steamer and steam somebody's skin off. And my skin dripped, and then other skin like fizzled up like the wicked witch's legs that under the house. It was like little, and like shriveled up into like these little wrinkled little like pieces of skin that like came off of me like I was molting like a snake or something. And then the next thing I know, there's this big huge like thing on my leg about that big. And it's in the shape of the nozzle of the clothes steamer, and there's several layers of my skin gone, and some of my skin was like liquefied, and it like stuck my dress to my leg. Literally they were calling like the medical people that I guess like kind of worked at that venue, but they weren't really medical people. They just had like this little tiny first aid kit and gloves. They didn't really know what to do. They didn't have any sort of creams, nothing. So I literally had to put like a sanitizing wipe and hand sanitizer on it and a Band-Aid. The Band-Aid didn't stay. So I literally had a gaping wound about that big. And I went out on live Ring of Honor stuff for the tapings in front of the people at the ECW arena with my skin like off. And if you actually watch some Queens of Combat footage and some footage from WWR, you'll see a bandage about that big on my outer thigh, and that's what that's covering. I think it's in my match with Allison Kay. You'll actually see that, and the reason why that bandage is there. And I think my WWR match, I think, against Barbie Hayden. Either Barbie Hayden or Sonia Strong, one of the two. And some other work that I had on the independents at that time. And I think a match or two at Ring of Honor as well. That bandage is covering a bunch of missing skin. I had to go to a doctor because my mom was like, this isn't going to heal right if we don't get like some advice that we need. So she took me to a doctor, and I had to put like, not just like Neosporin, but because so many layers of my skin were gone. And the doctor actually told me something scientific that I didn't know before. He said that steam is hotter than fire. So a burn by fire is not even technically as bad because it's not as hot as steam. So what I had suffered was worse than if I had taken like a lighter to my skin there. And I was like, are you serious? Like, I had no idea. So he had to put like, it was like, what is it? Nickel something dioxide, I don't know, something like that. And it was like specifically for like a hotter sort of burn. And I think I took off, I think he said there was 3 or more layers of skin gone. But the worst part was just seeing my skin like liquefied and drop to the floor as if they were like tears, but it was my skin. It was literally like House of Wax. Like, it was just so bizarre. It was so nasty, but I feel like such a champ because I still went out on like the live taping and went on did that freaking promo, pulling my skin and my dress from my leg as I'm doing this promo, and as I'm walking, being a valet. I think I was valeting Diesel and Dijak or something. I don't remember. I had like 2 or 3 valet gimmicks on those episodes. and as well as wrestle. But by the time this steam happened, I had already wrestled my match. So now it was just my time to be the valet and be the mouthpiece on the mic. Yeah, that was gnarly. That was super wicked, ultimate gnarly to the max. Watching my skin like wrinkle up like and like drop as well. It was like it had several different reactions. And then my dress literally stuck to my leg and I had to rip my dress from my wound on my leg. Oh, it was so nasty. That took probably at least 8 months to fully heal. And I had a scar for a really long time. And now finally in 2020, no, it's 2021 now. In 2021, the scar is pretty much gone.